Okay, let's see.
All right, are you in Twitter?
I'm trying to get on now.
Okay.
I kicked myself out.
Because if I do Twitter on here, I may kick myself out. Let me try.
You got a
I thought
laptop?
you had a phone.
No, I ain't. Okay, it worked. If I go on Twitter on here.
I just wait for some more people to come in.
Okay, I'm looking at Jason Meisner.
No, I didn't mean to talk about it now. I got to go through the motions first.
Okay.
Hello, Free R. Kelly. Hello, Barbara Kitty. Hello. Thank you, Kathy. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Trying to see if I can sum this.
Mind if I drink?
No. I'm not forever drinking when I'm on here, so. Let me see.
Pass me
Got a
some.
nice
that motion that the government had asked for the reading of the transcripts, their motion, that was the first thing the judge denied this morning.
You say he denied it?
Yeah, the government's motion.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
I know that the defendants was going to put in a motion because they didn't want the government to get that extra rebuttal. That was denied. They get 57 minutes tomorrow. They spent a lot of time this morning trying to figure out how to save time, how everything was going to work out. So they went over again how much each person would need. But the judge said, he still wouldn't have been able to instruct the jury today because it wouldn't have been enough time if they needed the whole 7 hours total. But after tomorrow, the jury will be excused. They'll be given their instructions. Jennifer says that she tried to limit her closing to 90 minutes, but she feels like she can't be rushed because she has way more counts than the other defendants have.
That's true.
Yeah, she has all 13 that she got to talk about, whereas they only had 3 and 1. So she was asking for at least 2 hours. And the judge had gave her she was going to start hers today if she could have started by 3 p.m. But since we didn't get started till after 4, she's going to start hers first thing tomorrow. I don't, you got to text me, Red Bunny. She says she wanted 2 hours. The judge gave her an extra 15 minutes. So, and then
why is it so much in a rush?
I think it's all because of the jury. He didn't want to start losing a jury like he ended up losing a juror today. That's what he's trying to prevent. And they've already did their 4 weeks. So then the government had the nerve to come back and say when he gave.
So wait a minute. So he gave her an extra 15 minutes. So what's another 30 minutes on it?
I don't know. he gave them, I guess because they supposed to be done tomorrow by 11. So that's why he pushed it up to 9. And remember, they said that they needed that courtroom. So that's probably a reason why.
I thought they needed the courtroom Wednesday
They need the courtroom.
for pictures.
And so the judge basically said, and then he said, well, it's not our fault if we run over or whatever, because he said it's the government's fault because they the one who closed the courtroom. We lost the whole day because of that. He said we would have been finishing today, but because we lost that day, now we going over a day. So when he granted Jennifer the extra 15 minutes, the government turned around and asked if they could have an extra 15 minutes, and he said no. So it brought them down to the government gets 3 hours total. They got 57 minutes left. Brown had 45 to an hour, and Jennifer and Derrel McDavid team had 105 minutes. So the government started out. I'm gonna try to get through this because this is not just taking regular notes.
So Jennifer gets an hour and 35 minutes.
Now she get an hour and 20 minutes. Wait, she get 120 minutes. So yeah.
120 minutes?
120 minutes. It went from 105 minutes to 120 minutes.
Oh, then that's 2 hours.
So extra 15 minutes, right? She had 90. No, I'm sorry. She had 90 minutes. Now she got 105.
Oh, that's for 35 minutes.
Yeah. So no, So they started out by saying this, and this the government, you guys. They started the closing arguments. Jane was a 14-year-old. She was 14 years old when this all took place. There are 3 men that helped to cover this up. They took advantage of her. They took advantage of her by using their fame. Jane was a youth. She had to perform degrading acts. He had her perform degrading acts on her for his sick pleasure. Derrel McDavid, who knew about the disgusting things that were on that tape, helped to cover this up to make sure he helped to cover it up using money to make sure those tapes always remained a secret. Brown, he would help book rooms, and he would get each person to and from the hotel. All 3 covered this up for years to hide the abuse from R. Kelly. They did the best, but at the end of the day, they failed. They did the best to keep these videos a secret, but they can't do that no more. You heard from Jane and other women about the abuse that they suffered at the hands of Robert Kelly. You heard about the money that was spent to cover it up, hundreds and thousands of dollars, to make sure no one knew of this abuse. So then they proceeded to show like exhibits, and they did like graphs and charts and timelines. So I kind of broke everything down the way they had it. So they had group 1, that's the sexual exploitation of Jane, which involves R. Kelly. That group contains counts 1 through 4. Group 2 is the conspiracy charges. That group contains counts 5 through 8. 7 and 8 is not conspiracy charges, but because it overlaps, but it's included in that group because it overlaps count 6. Group 3 is the enticement group. Those are charges from 9 through 13. So then they began to they started a timeline. I didn't get the entire timeline. Apologies. They started 1996 to 1999. is when Kelly's sexual conduct with minors began. They said in 2000 it was the first DCFS and CPD interview. Lisa Van Allen also took the videotape containing videos 2, 3, and 4. They went over that timeline a little bit more. I broke it down a little bit further so you guys will understand better. Then they started going over the elements for each count. So in group 1, the element pertains to Jane. She was under the age of 18. The defendant was producing a visual deception of enticed or that he used to entice or coerce Jane into sexually explicit conducts. That visual was then mailed or transported across state lines. So what they saying was he made the tape in Chicago, but when it ended up in Georgia, that was it being transferred across state lines. Even if he didn't do it, they're saying he allegedly made that video. So however it got there, whether somebody else took it, that's the charge that he's facing because of that video ending up in Georgia. They started speaking on Jane being the girl that was in video 3 in the white lingerie. They talked about what she was saying on that video, and that they also said there was no sexual intercourse in that video. It was just oral. She performed oral on him, he performed on her. On that tape, they quoted him saying, "One day you will be wide and open enough for me." And she basically repeated that back. That video was 21 minutes and 30 seconds long. And count 2, or video 2, that was the scene from off the checkered floor. That time they showed us a still picture of the checkered floor. They said during this clip, the jury watched him perform oral sex and told her to talk about her 14-year-old ass as he urinated on her. Count 1, video 1, is the log cabin room. Jane was under 18. Kelly employed, enticed, or induced Jane to engage in sexually explicit conduct. And oral sex, simulated sex and oral sex. They're saying that he also transported visuals across state lines. On that tape, they say Kelly urinated on her face and in her mouth. They say video 1 was depictions received from other, okay, so if you guys remember the lady from Missing and Exploited Persons, when she testified, when they compared that video, she said when she received it, it matched videos that minor 1 was in depictions received from other states like Maryland and Wisconsin. And count 4, video 4, is the threesome. They say it's Lisa Van Allen, Rob, and Jane. Jane was under the age of 18, 14 to be exact. Pretty much the same. The points, Kelly employed and enticed or induced her to engage in sexual exploitation and the transportation of the visual. Group 2, conspiracy, count 5, that's Rob and Derrel McDavid. They both conspired to obstruct justice between 2000 and 2019. Count 6 is all 3, Derrel McDavid, R. Kelly, and Milton Brown. They all conspired to receive child pornography between 2001 and 2007. They all agreed to work together to get back these tapes. In 2000 and 2001, particularly April, the DCFS investigation started with Jane. In December of 2000, Jane at that time is 16. There's a CPD investigation involving Jane. In 2000, Lisa Van Allen took the tape and she sent to Keith. In August 2001, Freeman recovered that tape related to video 2. That time they started going over Exhibit 320, which was the agreement for the reward and expenses for Freeman. Exhibit 321, they showed the polygraph consent forms. Jane testified during trial that she had learned from Sparkle that there was a tape of her that was made public. In December 2001, Kelly sold his home on George Street. Exhibit 112E is the inside of the George home. February 2002, CPD went to George Street home to investigate and take pictures. The fact that she says the fact that he sold his home shows that they were already working together to begin the cover-up of that tape. Then they go into the meeting at the Oak Park Hotel. This was January 2002. This is R. Kelly and McDavid. Jane and her parents were also there. This involves video 1, which was just Jane and R. Kelly. She wanted to put an emphasis that Derrel McDavid was inside the hotel during that meeting. Then they began to go over the Bahamas and Mexico trip, which was around the same time. Which was around the same time that June had actually traveled to the Bahamas and Mexico. So what they showed was flight itineraries. It says that on February 21st, 2002, June is supposed to enter the U.S. from the Cancun. On February 23rd, 2002, Jane entered the U.S. from the Cancun. On February 25th, 2002, the parents entered the U.S. from the Cancun. January 21st, 2002 is when Jane and her parents leave the country. They had actually went out of the country. In February 2002, CPD had actually received the first copy of video 1. February 25th, 2002, parents return home. She says that the tattoo is evident. The tattoo that Jane got done while she was in the Bahamas is evidence that June knew what was going on and that he was a part of the cover-up. May 10, 2002, the parents testified to the grand jury. Exhibit 303 is the grand jury transcript of Susan in 2002. Exhibit 301 is the grand jury transcript of Jane. June 5th, 2002, Kelly's charged with child pornography related to video 1. In 2002, Freeman filed a lawsuit and he was also paid $100,000. 2003, Derrel McDavid paid $100,000 to Freeman. It's sometime between late 2003, early 2004. Freeman meets with Kelly, Derrel McDavid about video 4, the threesome. And he said this is when it was said that someone in Kansas had that tape. In 2005, Derrel McDavid paid Freeman. So let me just say this again for people that just coming in. This is the government's closing argument. We're on the government. The government begins to say, okay, we understand that Charles Freeman is a disgraceful person, and you guys do not have to like him. You don't have to like him. We, the government, did not choose him. R. Kelly and Derrel McDavid brought him in. They chose him. That's the only reason why he's here. They chose him to help cover up their illegal acts because they knew he would never go to the police, and that they can trust him with their secret. In March 2007, Kelly talked to Lisa Van Allen about videos 2, 3, and 4, and they went over Lisa Van Allen's testimony, and they gave the definition of conspiracy. I meant to write that down. I'm sorry. Before I got on here. They gave the definition of what a conspiracy is. March 23rd, 2007, Lisa Van Allen has the polygraph test done. They exhibit 325. They showed the pictures of the poly contract. April 2007, there was a meeting with Keith and Freeman in Kansas. They said they spoke with Derrel McDavid and Brown about their accommodations, where were they meeting, etc. April 18, 2007, Keith meets with Brown, Lisa, and McDavid. During their return visit, they were supposed to have brought back. So that was April 18th is a return visit where they were supposed to have brought back the video, because remember the first visit, Keith had brought back a DVD instead of the VHS. So exhibit 423, they showed a check for $200 wrote to Milton Brown by Derrel McDavid. They saying that this shows you that they knew what was on that tape. They withheld a sum of that money until the trial was over. So they're saying out of that $200,000, they only gave them a portion of it, because the deal was once the trial was over, he beat the charges and they'll get the rest of the money.
How they know?
Yeah. I don't know. That's what their witnesses told them.
Right, because it was in cash. So how they know?
I don't know. Can you stop asking me the difficult questions? I'll tell you how they know. Let me get to Derrel McDavid's attorney's part. He gonna tell you how they know. So April 17, 2007, June cashed that check that very same day. They said, why bring cash if you just getting a legal embarrassing tape? If this is not a tape that contains something illegal, why did you need to get cash? Why couldn't you just wire them the money? Why are you trying to hide it by giving cash? Exhibit 323, 4/17/07. He takes the polygraph, he fails. They received only $20,000 in cash at this meeting. Exhibit 4/15, they show the flights for Keith. April 20th, 2007, Keith flew back to Chicago. The rooms were all booked and made in June Brown's name. April 20th, 2007, Lisa passed that polygraph test. This meeting, Brown told Keith, this is the meeting where Brown told Keith he had the golden egg. They were each paid $80,000. July 26, 2007, Lisa's third poly was taken, and this is when she said she had to give the false statement. She actually failed that polygraph test. Lisa Van Allen said that she had to give that false statement. This is also when Derrel supposedly had said to her he should have murked her from the beginning. They asked, the demeanor that we seen of Lisa on the stand, was that the demeanor of someone that wanted to be here? Is that the demeanor of someone that wasn't upset? She was clearly, they're saying like she was clearly upset. She was devastated. They say yes, she's made some mistakes. They even said that she may have not always been consistent, but she did not lie. Her statements may not have been consistent, but she was not lying. They say that she incorrectly believed, huh?
They said she was inconsistent, but she wasn't lying.
Right. They said that she incorrectly believed that she was 17 years old. But that inconsistency that she had with her age doesn't mean that she was lying either. Then they tell the jury that they are the judge. And I thought this was a very strong point from the government, because they told the jury themselves, you guys are the judges of credibility. So in early 2008, Derrel McDavid paid Freeman $100,000 at the Olympia Fields house. This was during the pool meeting. They gave them the money the next day after that pool meeting. May 20th, 2008, R. Kelly's trial began in Chicago. June 6, 2008, Brown paid Freeman $10,000. June 6, 2008, he also paid Freeman $150,000. June 13, 2008, Kelly was acquitted. They was telling the jury that you must evaluate Derrel McDavid's testimony the same way you do others, whether he has reasons, and evaluate whether he has reasons to lie or slant his testimony. They said Keith was on the stand. He said Keith was on the stand, yet the defense never even asked him, was Drea on the tape? That's a question they never asked. Was it actually Drea on that tape? However, he did say that it was an adult woman. Oh, that's my point. I'm sorry. I said he did say it was an adult woman on the tape. Says Kelly. They were saying Kelly would bring Lisa on stage to simulate sex acts at his performances. So why would he be so worried about a threesome with a tape of him and his wife and Lisa getting out when he would act out sex scenes with her on stage? So then they showed exhibits 411. Well, okay, I'm gonna keep it. Exhibit 411 was payments to Susan and Brandon. 6/30/2019, they paid $125 to $125,000 to Freeman. Kelly and Derrel McDavid. This is when Kelly and Derrel McDavid had said to Freeman that the bank was closed. Exhibit 425 was the wire transfer for that $125,000, and it was wired to Chuck's attorney. July 1st, 2009 is when Freeman received his last payment of $10,000. Count 5, conspiracy to obstruct justice. You have to prove the person knowingly covered up these tapes to prevent them from getting out, and he acted with intent to obstruct an investigation. The whole intent was to keep any tapes whatsoever of Jane from ever being seen. They showed that in October 2013 is when Derrel McDavid decided to end his relationship with Kelly. Exhibit 337 shows Derrel McDavid's lawsuit against Kelly. It says that this is knowledge that Derrel McDavid had received highly personal information regarding Kelly because it says in there that he has to keep confidentiality or he was going to be fined. So they're saying that agreement right there shows that he had highly personal information. They said that the defendant has to knowingly become part of this conspiracy, meaning he had to know what they're saying, that he was committing these acts knowingly. Exhibit 414, payments were being made to Jane. Jane testified in the memo that said settlement was strange to her because she says that she never had a settlement with Kelly. Most of these, now I wrote this down because this was strange to me. When I looked at the payments, you guys, they were all $1,100, and they wasn't $1,100 like once a week, once every 2 weeks. They were $1,100, $1,150 okay. So what I noticed was the payments that were made that were $1,150, they were made around or after the 5th of the beginning of the month. But the payments that were made around $1,100, they were made closer to the beginning, which the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd. So they're saying that those $1,100 payments was part of a settlement that Rob had made to keep her quiet. It's just me. And then it ended up coming out later that looked like car payments, rent payments or something. And if you guys pay rent, then if you don't pay it by a certain time, you get late fees. So that's why I figured the $1,150 was the extra $50 was attached to the $1,100 because there was probably a late fee. Looked to me like he was paying rent. It was also from January 28, 2014 to October the 1st, 2015, with a total of $30,432.20. So if those were settlement payments, she took a lot less than what anybody else took. So count 6, conspiracy to receive the child pornography. When a person knowingly receives this, the material is said to contain child pornography. Person knew it contained a minor and the minor is engaged in sexual activity. Material was mailed across state lines, which was sent outside of the state of Illinois. Defendant is not a member. He's not a member on the conspiracy. He's not a part of the conspiracy charge based on who he knew. He is based on what he did or what he said. So just because he knew Rob didn't make him guilty. It was what he did and what he said. So then they get to Brown. He's a part of this because January 2002, he took a trip to the Bahamas. February 2002, he went to Mexico. And at the end of 2003, he was at the meeting with Kelly at the studio. He was also at the end of 2003. He was at the meeting with Kelly at his home. On April 17, 2007, he was at the meeting with Keith. He also cashed a $200,000 check. He made the $20,000 payments to Keith and Lisa. In April 20th, 2007, he's also the one who gave Keith the $80,000. So that's what made him a part of this conspiracy. Count 7 and 8 is the receipt of the child pornography. Even though Kelly wasn't there, he instructed Derrel McDavid to receive these tapes and how to go about it. So that's why he's being charged in this, along with Derrel McDavid. Count 11, they went from 8 to 11, which is talked about Tracy, and these are the elements. Defendants used interstate commerce to engage in sex with Tracy. He also, interstate commerce could be the telephone. I think I talked about that in one of my videos. Him just calling her and initiating the act was interstate commerce. You can use a phone, video, anything like that to set up arrangements to have sex with her. Sexual exploitation is the enticing to engage in illegal sexual activities with a person under the age of 18 using the visuals, depictions. And so I just touched on what I just was saying. If they found Kelly had used a phone to engage with sex with Tracy, then he's guilty because she was under the age of 18 at the time that he did that.
But even though 17 is the legal age of consent?
Federal. So I was asking that all day today, but I guess even though state 17 is legal, federal is 18. Anything under the age of 18 in federal. So he met her when she was 16 years old. They said she told him that she was 16 years old at that time. There was a phone call made between them. Kelly enticed Tracy at 17 to engage in sexual exploitation conduct for the purpose of producing visual depictions, and he did this at Chicago Tracks. When she was 16 at the Westin Hotel was the first time that they had oral sex on each other. At 17 is when when he actually penetrated her at Tracks. Tracy had threesomes with Jane. He instructed Tracy to get naked and lay down. He left out for a minute. When he came back in, Jane was with him, and he told Tracy that Jane was there to please her. Rob began to set up the camera. He directed Jane on what to do. Tracy began crying. Rob got upset and at that time ordered Tracy to perform oral sex on him, and then they both took turns performing oral sex on him. Enticement of Tracy.
That story sounds.
So they said the enticement of Tracy, the jury would have to believe that he knew that she was actually under the age of 18. They said that she was less than 18. Used the facility or interstate commerce to knowingly persuade to induce sexual activity with Tracy. If the sex acts occurred, the defendant would have committed the criminal offense of sexual exploitation of a child. And then they go into enticements of counts 9, 10, 12, and 13. This is pretty much the same, interstate commerce. One of these is actually aggravated criminal sexual abuse, because they're saying if the victim is at least 13 of age, but under the age of 17, and that the person that is the abuser is at least 5 years older, then he's guilty of aggravated criminal sexual abuse for counts 9, 10, 12, and 13.
Oh, so now they want to use state law.
Yeah, there was an objection because Jennifer actually said that they were stating the wrong law for that. So during their expert witness, Dr. Turner's testimony, they cited he says the offender's goal is to always establish a trusting and close relationship, to normalize sex between them. He said 60 to 80% of sexual abuse victims do not report until they're adults. Victims are often attached and show love for their offenders. So then we get into Nia. Nia was 15 years old. She told him she was 15 years old. Robert Kelly was 13 years older. There were phone calls made between them. He asked her to travel to Minnesota. Exhibit 316 is the event contract in Minnesota where he had the concert with LL Cool J. And hey, hold on, I'm sorry.
Wait,
Look,
so
this
they
is the same
said
concert that the charges in Minnesota, because she said LL Cool J too. So is this the same concert? Because
no,
it's in Minnesota and it was LL
because they
Cool
said
J.
Minnesota happened in 2001. They said the LL Cool J was the one in '96 from Baltimore, for them girls in Baltimore.
Okay, well listen, this concert with Nia was in Minnesota, and it was the LL Cool J R. Kelly concert. What I'm asking is that state charge that he's facing in Minnesota, is that supposed to be the same concert?
No, that's in 2001.
Okay.
But those girls from Baltimore, the two girls from Baltimore, they thing was from '96 with LL Cool J. That's when they took their picture with LL Cool J.
Right. Okay.
But
so,
hold on, they saying that it's because he had phone contact with the girl and they ain't produced no phone records.
Yeah, no. It's testimony. They're just going based off testimony that this is what the girl said, that they had phone calls. So that is the interstate commerce, because he used electronic devices to initiate the sexual acts. Remind me, Lola, when you start talking to mute you.
Oh,
I mean to mute myself.
I'm sorry.
So okay. So with Nia too, I'm just going over that again. So Nia was 15 years old. Nia told him she was 15 years old. Kelly was 13 years older. There were phone calls between them. She traveled to Minnesota. Exhibit 316 is the event contract for the Minnesota concert. Kelly enticed Nia to engage in sexual contract at the recording studio. Pauline. So the sexual contact, if you guys forgot, was when Nia testified that he put his hands down her pants and touched her butt in the inside and outside of her vagina and kissed her. That would have been the sexual contact at the recording studio. Pauline, Exhibit 107, they showed a picture of Pauline. They said that Pauline found Jane naked in the log cabin with Kelly at 14 years old. He's the one who taught her how to perform sex acts on him. And I think at that time when they talked about when she walked in on him, she had a threesome with them. He told her that if she ever told, he would tell her mother that she kissed the boy. She's the one who testified that she performed sex acts on him over 80 times. Exhibit 114L shows pics inside of Track's studio. Pauline had lied. Oh, so just to give you guys some visual, that picture showed a brown couch. It looked like it would have been a part of a sectional. On the left side of the picture, on the right side was a black refrigerator. Some things on top of the refrigerator. I did see there was albums posted on the walls. There was a Rockefeller. What do you call those? The albums that's in the case. The y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
Plaques.
Yeah, there was a Rockefeller plaque on the floor, and then straight ahead there was a door, but it was too dark to see what exactly was inside of there. So I'm guessing that's the room she testified to, where they performed sex acts at. They said that Pauline had lied because of her loyalty to Rob. She admitted that she was in love with him at 14 years old, and she admitted that she's still in love with him to this day. Exhibit 108 is a picture of Brittany. Brittany also had a threesome with Jane and with Pauline. Brittany did not testify in this trial. What they used about Brittany is what Jane actually testified to when it comes to Brittany.
Dottie, can you tell them? Put on mute.
Oh.
Can you tell the people that this Brittany is not Jane's cousin? Brittany, that picture is not Jane's cousin.
Yeah, so that picture with the light-skinned girl, that's not her. Brittany is actually dark-skinned. That's not her. So the one that we was thinking that she was doing that TikTok and stuff, free R. Kelly, that's not her. So then they go back to count 9, which was Jane. Exhibit 118, a picture of Jane. It looked like it was a school photo. They said that was her at 13 years old when Robert started making sexual contact with her. It started over the phone with phone sex, asking what type of underwear she wore, and he masturbated while they were on the phone. At that time, it was lunch, and they actually ended right there when they spoke about that. And they just said, because of all of these reasons, this is the reasons why you have to find all 3 of the defendants guilty of all 13 charges. Is how they ended that. So when we came back after lunch, we got ready for the Derrel McDavid's closing. Derrel McDavid, briefly started out by saying Jensen, Margolis, Tui, Palladino. He just said these were all men that were, I thought I would remember. He just said that they were all like incredible people. They were all outstanding. They all worked for very powerful people. These are the men that were brought in to handle these situations. These men were instructed to deal with Freeman and Lisa and etc. If there was a conspiracy, it wasn't R. Kelly who was arranging these meetings or agreements or making these payments. You would have to believe that it was these men. It's in black and white here. They showed a actual letter with Jensen's information at the top of the letterhead and him arranging to get the tapes, receive the tapes. They showed Palladino's notes and his recordings. John Tuohy's writings to the Sun-Times. Jensen ordering polygraphs. Derrel McDavid didn't do these things by himself. Mongolis engaged. He hired Jack Palladino. Jack had a tape in his own head, so he had to know what was on that tape. You think these men would have risked their whole life and career to protect R. Kelly if R. Kelly was a pedophile? All these men had high profile something, but y'all get what I'm saying. He says, does it make sense for these men to do that for one man who allegedly abuses children? Does it make sense for them to throw their careers down the drain? He said 4 words, and I missed one of them. But it was beyond reasonable doubt. Has the government given you evidence that Derrel McDavid received child pornography from Rob? You have to find Jensen, Margolis, Palladino, and Tuohy all engaged in this crime, and that Freeman and Lisa Van Allen are the only ones being truthful. In order to believe what the government is saying. Derrel McDavid decided to take the stand because he decided he wanted to put his credibility up against Lisa and Chuck. Chuck and Lisa are they really that trustworthy? If you have reason to doubt that they are, I'm sorry, then Derrel McDavid isn't guilty. This case involves statute of limitation issues. This case involves statute of limitation issues. The defendant cannot be convicted of conspiracy if the act was committed 5 years before the indictment was returned on July 11, 2019. So that means what they're saying, all of the obstruction would have had to occur between July 11, 2014 and July 11 of 2019. You will have to find that one of the defendants committed an overall act 6 years after Rob was acquitted. Overacts are beyond reasonable doubt that these happened, that you would have to find that one of these 4 things happened. Falsify a videotape, a police report, or the grand jury transcripts. And you would have to prove that that was done after July 2014. Jane payments, this is when they say as well, were rent payments, nothing more. Jane never suggested that she ever received any type of settlements or anything for the 2002 case. And she will be the one to know what she received that money for. It was in the memo line settlement, it was because these were rent checks written after years of her relationship, after years of the relationship with Rob. $1,100 rent payment said nothing. She said nothing. None of this was related to her 2008 trial. She said this in her 2019 grand jury statement. You would have to believe that the government actually proved that those payments were made and it was related to the 2008 trial. The government did not. Derrel McDavid was owed $1,361,528.20. That is the exact 10% of what he is to be paid and what he earned down to the exact penny if you actually did the math. The agreement states the entire breakdown. Has nothing to do with the 2008 case. The government wants you to believe that there was a secret. The government wants you to believe that there was a secret, unstated purpose. Where's the proof that there was a secret, unstated purpose? You have to look at beyond a reasonable doubt. The confidentiality agreement isn't unusual at all. That don't mean that just because they asked him to be confident to maintain confidentiality that there was a crime committed. Did they prove this lawsuit? With that, did they use that? Did they prove that the lawsuit payment to Derrel McDavid was made regarding a 2002 case? Absolutely not. Under the statute limitations, he should be found not guilty on count 5. Also pertaining to count 6, you would have to prove he was in agreement to falsifying the records, documentation, and tangible evidence. He had to actually know that that was Jane on the tape from that far back. And he had to know that you have to prove, the government has to prove that he knew that for a fact. Cannot base anything, you cannot base, okay, so this is where the issue came in with the attorneys and asking for the mistrial. Because Brinkley at that time said, you cannot base anything we know now on what he knew then. So just keep that. That's what he said in mind. So then 2000 to 2008, Jane never told Derrel McDavid that it was her on the tape. There's no evidence to ever show that she told him that it was her on the tape. Jane said no one knew but Pinky and Brittany in the July 2019 transcripts. She said Rob wanted it to be kept a secret from the world. He continued to stress to keep it a secret. She lied about it to everyone. There's no evidence that Derrel McDavid knew. She never even said that Derrel McDavid knew. There's no evidence that even the lawyers knew. She said Rob coached her to lie. She didn't say Derrel McDavid did that. No one even said that Rob told Derrel McDavid that he told her to not to speak about it. Winters testified that Jensen wouldn't have. So Winters was, remember, Jensen's assistant. So he was in there that watched the tapes with Jensen. Winters testified that Jensen wouldn't have people in rooms during the interviews. Jane never testified that Derrel McDavid ever threatened her. She said he never asked her to lie. He never asked her to cover up anything or even came close to that. The Oak Park Hotel meeting. That's the only evidence that the government may have that Rob may have made any type of confession. The government came in here and they want you to believe that Derrel McDavid was there. But based on their own witnesses' testimony, in Jane's own words, it was only her parents, and Robert. Even when the government suggested that Derrel McDavid was there, Jane testified that she didn't remember that. She did. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is a joke because their own witness says that he wasn't there. Susan says that the meeting was after the DCFS investigation. The DCFS investigation happened in 1999. They didn't go to the Bahamas until 2002. She says Kelly didn't admit to any wrongdoing at the meeting. Not even, and she said that, I'm sorry, hold on. There was another meeting, and she said not even at that meeting did Rob ever admit to any wrongdoing. She said that Rob was upset about all of the allegations altogether. She admitted that she didn't want to be hounded by the press, so she wanted to take the trip to the Bahamas. She said it seemed like a fair idea to go out of the country. No one stopped them from ever talking to the police. They could have stayed there longer. Rob could afford it, but they didn't. Jane and Susan never indicated that they even saw June at any of these vacations. With us or against us is what they said that he said. You're either with us or against us. Yet they said Robert never admitted to anything. So what would be the reason to say with us or against us? Derrel McDavid was never there for any admission by Rob, and there's no indication that he was ever there. Money provided to the parents based on their testimony in this jury, it wasn't attached to any connection to any lie they were asked to tell or to the 2008 trial. The parents said they never got anything for that case, regarding that case. So the government switched up and said, well, Brandon handled the financial parts because Susan didn't testify to what they wanted her to testify to. False documents, the grand jury transcript. Their witnesses all say that Derrel McDavid was not there. The government wants you to believe that he took Rob's word alone. No, he hired people to investigate. They interviewed the family. They all reported back that they believe Sparkle was behind making all of this up. Derrel McDavid sees the report and he says that the family denies any parts of anything. He had reasons to believe that the people were lying about the underage sex with Robert. Tiffany Hawkins. 1 minute it was a paternity suit, then she changes it to a different claim. She went from suing from $10 million to settling for $250,000. January 2001. Jack interviews Asti Watkins. Demetrius Smith offers $10,000 to Asti to lie about Rob. Offered her several times, $10,000 to $12,000. The government doesn't dispute that Watkins was actually interviewed. They don't dispute that she told them that Demetrius Smith offered money for her to lie. They were caught on tape actually asking her to lie on Robert. Barry was offering this money. He was the person that was paying. The person that was paying is the same person that took all of these women to Susan Loggins. They either pay or they tried to pay these people. So of course he would think that all of these people were lying. Who could blame him? How can he be at fault to believe that it wasn't true back then? Jane didn't tell you Derrel McDavid Jane did not tell Derrel McDavid what she said in this courtroom instead. The Sun-Times was even suspicious because Hankerson had called them the same day. They offered to show them the tape 1 minute and then they wouldn't show the attorneys the tape. Then they had Jim Derrel actually admitted that the Sun-Times had copies of the tape, and if this is child pornography, who would do that? No reason to believe that Tui is lying to the Sun-Times in his letter. How could they prove that he knew what was on that tape? They can't prove it. Jensen was told Rob would be able to turn himself in. The state lied and they went and arrested him. Rob came to Chicago to turn himself in on 26th in California. The state lied. They actually snatched Rob up off the court steps. The state cannot be trusted. The government cannot be trusted. He saw a frame by frame video. The defense experts broke down the frame by frame video of Rob's back. They testified that the moves were different. 1 minute there was a mole, the next minute there wasn't no mole. There's no dispute to that. Damon Pryor report says that Chuck and Keith was putting together a tape of someone that looked like R. Kelly. Lisa Van Allen even told them that tape wasn't real. Video 1 was a fake. and that came from Lisa's confession to Damon Pryor. Why would Derrel McDavid believe anything else? Put all the evidence together, and you cannot say that Derrel McDavid knew or had a reason to believe that these things weren't false. They want to suggest the judge in the 2008 case was lying when he said that tape was the rotten tomato in the bag. Where's the proof he knew what was on the tape in 2008? No one said this but Chuck and Lisa. They want you to think because he didn't go poking around Robert's house that he wasn't looking for evidence or anything like that. Tracy's he looked at Tracy's lawsuit settlements, the settlements from each person. No one in his position would have thought any differently from what he thought. Only Chuck and Lisa are the ones to say anything different. Chuck's claim. So we know he had a tape of videos 2 and 3. He said he gave it to Derrel McDavid in Kansas. He said Derrel McDavid gave him the info to get the tapes. But in his grand jury statement, he said that he had to call Lisa and some other of Rob's employees to find out who had actually had it, and so he could locate the tapes. He said Lisa told him she gave the video to a man in Georgia in the grand jury statement. Then said Derrel McDavid told him. Then he said Jack gave him the information. Then he said he had to give Jack the name of the person who had the tape in Georgia. All this while being on the stand. Lisa Van Allen. She said that nobody from Georgia stole the tape. She said she never told Chuck that someone in Georgia stole the tape. She said, Brinkley said Chuck Freeman's story is just plain stupid. Whenever he tries to explain, he makes absolutely less sense. So to retrieve the tape, when Chuck said he went to retrieve the tape, the lady so she never called the cops. He wants you to believe that when he walked in the door that there was a child pornography tape that was just sticking directly out of the VCHS. That's stupid. It takes that and he takes that tape and then 2 family videos to pass off as porn. He said that the videotape had a label with the girl's name and R. Kelly on it. But he couldn't keep his story straight because the statement he says he went through the videotapes and had to ask him several times before he admitted that the statement he was reading was the truth. He testified that he did and he did not know what was on the tape before he went to Georgia. He testified that he did and that he did not get the tape location from Lisa. He said that he told Derrel McDavid and Jack that he wanted $1 million. In the grand jury statement, he says that he talked to Jack only and asked Jack what was on the tape, and Jack told him, "I'm not telling you that." He said that Derrel McDavid and Jack was left in the room with the tape to the Homeland Security, but he said that he had actually left Jack alone in the room with the tape here. He keeps putting Derrel McDavid in places that he hadn't put him in before. He said that he asked Derrel McDavid for $1 million, but with all the lawsuits, he never asked for that $1 million. He had 3 payments. They paid him one for a lawsuit. They paid him another one for that low rate budget sex tape that he gave them, and then they paid him for that press conference. They say he didn't even get up to $600,000. He wasn't even close to $1 million. Year payments, that was a lie. Lies and keeping copies. He kept copies so he could keep trying to hound them to make more and more money. Oh, sorry. He said that he and Kelly had watched that sex tape to the grand jury together. He said that only Kelly and Brown was there. He says that Kelly had paid that tape in the Olympia Fields homes. His lies, he keep getting caught in his lies because here he places Derrel McDavid and says that he was there. He's lied several times just alone about the swimming pool situation and whether he got in, he didn't get in, he stuck his foot in, he put his whole body in, he put half his body in. Chuck is, you have to believe in order to find him guilty of this, that Chuck is trustworthy beyond a reasonable doubt. And are you freaking kidding me if you do? Says he did not have a tape. He told us that he did not have that tape on the 23rd. He actually had to leave and go to Georgia to retrieve that tape. Yet the contract says he needed to have it back to them on the 23rd to receive any type of payment. So he didn't need to go to Georgia. He had already had the tape. Lauren said that he seen him pull that tape from the back of his pants. Chuck testified that he carried the tape in the back of his pants because remember, guys, I said in that other video that he said that he had it tucked and he had to pull it from his butt. Chris Wilson says that he was there. He's an active Chicago police officer. They support this. They support the testimony. Wait, hold on a second, guys. Their statements and their testimony supports that Derrel McDavid was not there, only Jack. Derrel McDavid was never in Kansas. Palladino shows no trips to Kansas after August the 23rd when that contract was signed, because that's when they actually got the tape. Everything happened exactly how Derrel McDavid said it happened. Birkeland, which is the polygraph examiner, Palladino, Wilson, would have all have to be lying in order for Chuck to be telling the truth. Chuck called Rob to extort money over sex tapes. He lied about every aspect of that tape. They want you to trust him on the contents of that tape. Chuck says Lisa stole it. Lisa stole one tape. Chuck never seen the tape Keith had until 2007. So, it cannot be. So, if Keith told you that there was no scenes of Robert and there was one tape, Keith had the tape that Lisa gave to him. How did Chuck get it? He didn't. Chuck never really had any tapes. He never made any copies of tapes. Keith said that he seen a sex tape of Rob on the internet. That's exactly what Chuck seen. So he says the tape that Chuck has cannot be the origin of the 2001 tape. Chuck has no truthful existence on where he got that. If he really gave him videos 2 and 3, why would they short him the amount of money that they gave him? Why did they never try to go back and get all those copies he said he made? Why did they hire a criminal attorney back in August 2001 and Chuck really had all these tapes and they said that there was a minor on those tapes? He gave a lousy adult sex tape to them. Then all of the reasons why they did not give him all of his money, they never asked for copies, made sense because all he gave them was a lousy adult sex tape. Chuck was caught in his lies and can't no one deny that. He wanted to hold a press conference. They paid because they did not want to make a speculator at Rob's trial. Nothing was wrong with preventing him from not wanting his jury tainted. Derrel McDavid is not guilty on count 7. Lisa. She said that there was a threesome tape, count 8. She says Jane is in it. She said Derrel McDavid watched the threesome video with videos 2 and 3 on it. Then she said she turned it over to Derrel McDavid. Lie number 1, the contents of the tape. First, she said there was 2 scenes. Then she testified in 2008 that she had never seen a tape of Rob and Jane. But in Surviving R. Kelly, she said because she really wanted to be on that show so bad, he said just look at her Facebook messages to prove that. She said that she had came across a tape with Jane, her, and Rob. After she fast forwarded it some, then she seen scenes with Jane and Rob alone. Then when they asked her about it, wait, you had to fast forward? She said Surviving R. Kelly edited some stuff. But then said that the scenes with Jane, but you said that the scenes with Jane and Rob was first, and the last scene was a threesome. She lied about that. She lied in 2008 on that trial, and she got caught in that trial. There's only one tape. She sent that to Keith. Keith watched it, and he said that there was one scene, and it was only a threesome. Nothing unusual, regular threesome, Lisa, Rob, and another woman. That's exactly how he described it. Didn't see anything irregular with it. Tape had never had multiple scenes. This is exactly what Derrel McDavid said. Keith, the government witness, said that what Lisa testified to was a complete lie. Lisa said she didn't want Rob watching it. That's why she took the tape. Lisa told him she had a tape with Rob, her, and another woman. He said, oh, I want to see it. She sent him the tape so he can watch it. It was exciting. It was Lisa, whom he had a relationship with, and then it was a celebrity. So he wanted to see the tape. And then he showed other people. She never told him that there was anything illegal on that tape. Keith exposed her here in this trial. She sent that tape because Keith wanted to see, because he wanted to see it, not because she wanted to ever get rid of that tape. There was no concern at all of a 14-year-old girl or any minor on that tape. Exactly what Keith had described, it was an exciting sex tape with a superstar on it. What clear proof could we have that a person got caught in a lie? He showed Chuck the tape Chuck had never seen that tape, or he would have said, oh, that's the girl from video one that I had. He never said that though. Winters, in April of 2007, said Derrel McDavid dropped off one tape at Jensen's office. Winters said he saw a tape, and it was Rob, Lisa, and Rob's wife. He identified Rob's wife because he said he met her 4 times previous to seeing that tape. And it was just like Keith described the tape, the government's witness. Lisa said she had no expectations to collect any money. Keith said she told him that they would make the money. She asked Keith and Chuck to take the jury to the pawn shop to get money. She blackmailed this man with a sex tape of him and his wife and her at the time he was at his most vulnerable state because he was on trial fighting for his life. The tape Derrel McDavid was involved in did not have Jane on that tape. She lied about that like she lied about being 17 years old. When she claimed she didn't know how old she was. Really? These are all Brinkley's words, you guys. So imagine him in person. Just like Jane being on the tape made for a better shakedown than saying that was his wife on the tape. Just like she said that Derrel McDavid said that he would murk her after the 3rd trip. In her own Facebook messages portray her with that. Keith was not there the 3rd trip. So how is she saying in the Facebook messages, do you remember when you see me crying? Did I ever tell you why I was crying? But she said that Derrel McDavid threatened her on the third trip. Keith was not at that third trip. She was calling a lie. And she wanted him to verify that lie so that she could be on Surviving R. Kelly. Keith said that she wasn't crying. Because Keith said that she was crying because they didn't get paid. How much more proof can we give you that she's lying about Derrel McDavid? She's a liar. The Facebook messages she wanted Keith to write about. She wanted the Facebook message. She wanted Keith to write about Derrel McDavid, but Keith would not do that. He would not. He is not guilty of counts 8, 5, or 6. Chuck and Lisa lied. They were being extorted, so of course they're gonna pay in cash. In a criminal case where there's doubt, when doubt comes up, the answer isn't benefit. It's not guilty. Come back to these 4 men who reports come back and show that would they risk their legacy behind someone who's being accused of child pornography? The government did not deliver clear proof. They have to prove everything beyond a reasonable doubt was what they said was true. All the government did is show that Derrel McDavid made me guilty by association. Use your verdict to say that the government did not prove reasonable doubt. And then there was a break. Do you guys want to say anything before I get into John Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just still trying to figure out where the video 2 and 3 come from. How did Chuck get it? Like, how did that even come about? How was that any like existence of that? When Lisa sent.
Did you hold on? Did you hear me when I said Chuck did not have any videos? What he got was off the internet. Did you hear that part? Y'all heard that part? Chuck had no video.
Right. So what was on the tape that he turned over in his back pants, like from his butt?
That was after he met with them and got the same threesome tape. That's why. Hold on, I'm gonna go back to that since you asking that question. Back. You can keep talking. I'm gonna mute myself.
Yeah, I was just confused about that. Like, where did these videos 2 and 3 come from? If he never even turned over whatever it was that the government is saying was on video 2 and 3. It just came out of nowhere. And
okay,
their story just don't make sense.
So what they saying is Chuck and Lisa conspired to make that fake 2001 tape. So that first video 1, they're saying is a fake. They made that. Damon Pryor not testified, but in his sworn statement, he said that Lisa confessed to making that fake tape. Okay, so that's the tape he had. So when he seen Keith in 2007, it was a tape of the threesome, the actual tape that Lisa stole. And it was a threesome that was with Rob, his wife, and Lisa. And they said they know that because when remember, all of these are both supposed to be the tapes that Lisa stole, but they're 2 different tapes. So when he seen the tape in 2007, he didn't say, "Oh, that's the same girl from video 1 that we had." He didn't say that. But that's what Lisa's testimony was, that the threesome tape was Jane, her, and Rob.
Right. So, but the tape that Lisa said she had all 3 scenes on it, but Keith only get 1 scene. And
so now
somehow
you see the lie.
Yeah. And then somehow
that's the lie, Daddy. Lolo, that's a lie right there.
This is just crazy, just mind blowing to me.
It doesn't make sense because it's all made up. You know, it's all a conspiracy to get money. So the government gave them pieces of information to put together to go with whatever stories and lies they already had. So none of it's really going to make sense to us because it don't make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Sorry, y'all have a bad headache, but yeah.
I get what you're saying, but then like, why would they even try to get these tape back that supposedly had Jane on it when Jane was already saying that she wasn't on no tape? So what's the sense of even trying to get a tape back with her on it? If she wasn't on the video one, then she wasn't gonna be on video 2 and 3.
Exactly. And that's why they saying, and if she was on those tapes, anybody, if he asked for $1 million and she was on them tapes, ain't you gonna give him the $1 million and get that tape back if that's the case? You're not
Right.
gonna give him partial payments and then send him to go back and get some other stuff or come back with the tape. You're not gonna do that. That didn't even make sense, and that's what Brinkley was trying to get into the juror's mind. None of that makes sense. If this is a tape with a minor on that, they gonna start with that tape first, and they would have got the money that they asked for, but that wasn't the case. And he wanted to show that there's nothing wrong with what the attorneys uh, advised Derrel McDavid to do. Just settle these cases. When this man came back, because everything was centered directly around his trial, and they didn't want anything to mess that up, there was nothing wrong with giving this man that money because that amount of money wasn't hurting Rob's pockets. At that time, he was in his prime. Just give it to him so he could just be gone and we could just move on and have a successful case. That's what the defense is trying to say was the mentality of the people that was involved. They was not trying to purchase back. And then purchasing this child, they started giving money, but they wasn't getting the tapes because he testified himself that he was making copies, more and more copies. So why keep paying them? Y'all not even getting all of the tapes. That
And
wouldn't
then
even make sense.
and then where are these copies that he made?
The world may never know.
But it wouldn't surprise me if these copies, somebody after this trial, when it's proven that there's no underage girl on the tape, somebody after this trial will upload these videos onto Pornhub or X videos or RedTube or something.
If we're to believe that what Lisa Van Allen says, why would Kamora Lee Simmons want to purchase a child porn tape?
Right.
Yep, keep that in mind. She testified that Kamora Lee Simmons wanted the tape for her show. But to me, I mean, it was a done deal for me when they asked her if you was really trying to get rid of that tape and it was really something that you knew you wasn't supposed to been doing and you can go to jail for. The first thing anybody gonna do is destroy that tape. I'm not about to send that tape nowhere and send and put it in nobody else's hands because that's like you trusting somebody with your life. No, that's not happening. I would have destroyed that tape. I felt the defense when they said that. You would have destroyed it. You would never have sent that tape off to nobody. So it makes more sense what Keith said. She sent the tape to me because I told her I wanted to watch it. And it was interesting. He said he's seen nothing illegal about it. That's why he never tried to report it or anything. And he showed it to other people. Do you think he would have put himself in a predicament to go to jail behind all this and continue to show other people and put them in the predicament of going to jail behind this if they really felt it was a minor on them tapes? I doubt it. I think one person would have had some sense to say, wait a minute, that look like a little girl. We finna turn this over.
Right.
Especially when the other people he was showing wasn't getting no money at all. They was just watching the tape. They ain't had nothing to benefit from it, from keeping it.
Right. And then like the people he made copies for and he sent them the tape. Whatever. Freeman made copies for it, and Keith said he made copies and sent it to people, gave them to people. Then those people never even came out with the tape and tried to extort themselves with the try to get them
Exactly.
some little bit of money out of
It
it,
should have been extortion after extortion after extortion. It shouldn't have been coming from the same people.
and they never leaked it.
Okay, y'all want me to continue with June Brown? Let me see. Okay, so then we break. We took a break. Bajin wants to put a motion on the board. She said that they repeatedly said if they knew now what they knew, if they knew then what they know now, or even suggested, Jensen would have known then. She says that can be, it could be, meaning that their thoughts on Rob's guilt or innocence could be different. She says now that's saying that not only does the government believe that he's guilty, but it's saying that his co-defendants think that he's guilty as well. And she says that puts her clients, her in a messed up situation. So at that time, she asked for the first mistrial. She said it was prejudicial to try them together in the first place. But what's funny about this to me was while she was giving her argument and putting that motion on the record, Derrel McDavid was standing right next to her, looking down at her like, right, yeah. And she was sitting at the table talking, and Rob was sitting next to her. It was funny because in my mind it's almost
You said
like
Derrel McDavid was looking at her what?
no, he was standing right next to her. So he was at Rob's defense table, and he was standing right next to her while she was talking to the judge about the mistrial, and he was just watching her like okay, and listening to her points on why she wanted a mistrial.
So again, like we were saying earlier, they kind of like working
Yeah,
together.
it's kind of like, yeah, and the attorneys they didn't object to anything like that. So the judge says he says it's like you have three parties coming in and saying like, oh yeah, he's guilty, he's guilty. The judge says that he didn't really see them saying that, and so he kind of he said the jury is going to have to decide on this. So that motion was denied because he said he really didn't see Brinkley suggesting that he was guilty. I will say this: Brinkley did say in one part of something that he said he did say Jensen probably would have maybe thought differently about the tape or something to that extent. So he was agreeing with Jennifer. They wasn't objecting to anything she was saying. Just so y'all know.
Dottie.
Yeah.
It takes me back to when Derrel was on the stand and he started crying.
Mute your phone, Dottie.
Oh, sorry.
It takes me back to when Derrel was on the stand and he started crying. What did he say when he started crying? About he didn't never know that Rob did that video 2 and 3 until now. So it's kind of like he was, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like he was trying to say that, oh, those tapes are real. That's really her. And she really was underage at the time. In a way, I just feel that way.
Was that when he was crying when he was talking about the tape?
Yes. That he cried like several times, but that was one of the times.
Did he cry when he was saying that? I thought he was just saying he's finding out stuff the same way we finding it out at the trial.
Yeah, he was crying when he said that.
You're gonna make me go back and look at my notes too. Cause I remember him saying a lot of the things he never even heard about. I remember him saying that all of these other minor 10, 11, 12, 13, I heard him say that he didn't even know who these girls was. He never seen them a day in his life. I heard him say that's the reasons why he never believed none of these tapes, because none of these girls ever, being that they supposed to be minors, never went to the police. No police ever talked to them, never questioned Rob. So he said he had, that's what I heard him say. I don't remember him crying about not seeing the tapes 2 and 3.
Yeah, but
I gotta go back and look at that. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm a mute.
I get it. He got to cover his own ass, so I get it. And his attorney got to do whatever he got to do to get his client off.
So, do you think he's working with or against?
At the end of the day, it comes down to he's working with Rob, but because if Rob would be guilty, then that would kind of make his client guilty. So they have to figure something out, and that figuring something out is just tell them what they know.
I think his team did a lot. I think Derrel McDavid, this just me personally, I think he did a good job of getting on that stand and humanizing Rob.
He did.
You know, he
It's
talked
just
about
that
his
one part.
he told that jury that man he could produce a whole hit record from that table where he's sitting at. He talked about him being shy and how in the beginning, even in the years when Tiffany Ockensposer came into the picture, he talked about how shy Rob was. He didn't even approach women. He kept his head down. Didn't even look good.
Right.
But at the same time, we gotta remember there's still 3 defendants. Their counsel job is to defend their client. So I mean, you want to look at it. They could have went in there and said a lot of stuff a lot different. They couldn't. He didn't have to say anything good about Rob, but he did. A lot of wrinkly, even in his questions, he asked questions and asked the witnesses. You never seen Rob there. Rob didn't do this. He said in his closing arguments, Rob didn't sit there and order this stuff to be done. He didn't do this. He didn't. They technically didn't have to do that. They could have just placed if you guys remember the opening statements when Brown's attorneys came out with their opening statement. I mean, they came at Rob. They threw everything on him. It was they could have did that up until now, but
Dottie, I sent you something.
Yeah, I seen that. I
But
agree.
don't say it on the live though.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, don't say it on the live.
Miss Pat, I'm a Capricorn too. What she say about it? He's a clown. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna read y'all. Cause then we almost done, but I'm gonna read y'all June, and then this wasn't that bad either. June Brown closing. It was supposed to start at 3, but at this point is when about 3:15 we was going on break. We got some extra time because they said from 3:15 to 3:25, the jurors wasn't ready. Then about 3:25, they came back in and said that juror 44 had a panic attack and she couldn't continue. She worked for the public library. She'd never seen Surviving R. Kelly, but she had heard about it. She was the seventh juror selected. She was not an alternate. The judge at that point was thinking about excusing her altogether. They talked to her some more. She said she cannot go on for one more minute. They all agreed there was no objections. We're replacing her with alternate number 2, juror number 83. I believe it is a guy. He had also not seen Surviving R. Kelly. From the looks at the table, the defense was happy with the alternate.
Wait a minute, Dottie.
Yeah.
Was this juror that had the panic attack, was she one of the white women or the black women?
I couldn't tell you. I don't look at the jury. I don't know.
Okay, because it's 5 black women. One of them is an alternate. The other 4 is the actual jurors. I don't know which one. I just know because when they picked the jurors, they said 4 black women, 4 white women, 2 black men, 2 white men. And I know that for sure there's only 2 black men there. So those 2 black men is actually part of the 12. But 4 of the 5 women that's black was actually part of the jury.
Lolo, that's your department. I don't know nothing about that jury. I just see them when they walk in and barely pay attention there. I promise. I have no idea. I only know what I have right here in my notes. I don't know how many is what, how many white, how many black. I have no idea. I try not to focus on that jury because that courtroom is very, 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 very strict. So I just try to take the notes. Somebody said a white woman, white.
Okay.
So they said Brown. If you're sitting for 4 weeks, you're probably wondering where's all the evidence at against Brown. You're not alone. Brown is being charged with one single act of conspiring to receive child pornography. There's no evidence of that because he never did it. They had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that those tapes were of Jane and Rob having sex. And Jane testified that she's kept these allegations, that she's kept this secret for decades. In 1989, R. Kelly's career took off. Barry Hankerson was his manager, and they made a mistake, but they said Sparkle had a hit song at that time. Brandon started playing the guitar for him. 1991, he hired Derrel McDavid. 92, 93, 92, he had 12 play. I think he said 93, he won a Grammy or something for that. In 93, Chuck met R. Kelly playing basketball with Gerald Levert. 96, I Believe I Could Fly came out. R. Kelly married Drea Kelly. And he also met Brandon's daughter, Jane. He became her godfather. In 1997, Brown started working for R. Kelly. 1998, Tom Arnold told you that he started interning at Tracks. The government doesn't like this timeline, but it's the timeline that's the truth. Brown came in the picture when these relationships were already formed and established before he started working there. Meaning the relationships with everybody else that's involved in this was already up and going. Tom Arnold and Jane testified that they're about unwritten rules, meaning stay in your lane. Do not look at or talk to the guests. You walk through the studio with permission. Milton did his job as an assistant, and that's it. All the government evidence proves is that he did his job, and that's all. In the government opening statement, they want to say that by 99, Rob was a superstar. But Rob was a superstar way before that, way before Milton, a whole decade earlier. In 1999, Brown had only known Kelly for 1 year. So do you want to believe that Kelly actually confessed that he was a child predator with his assistant after knowing him for a year and a half? Not that would be incredible to believe. It would have to be incredible to believe that Kelly would share some of his deepest, darkest secrets with his assistant. Their own experts said it was crucial for the relationship to be kept a secret. The environment was already groomed by the time Brown had got there to keeping everything a secret. The performance, he performed the task that was of his job. They even testified that they only seen Brown at the studio maybe once a week. Government witnesses provided testimony that Brown did nothing more than his job. Jane at the tattoo shop. They want you to know that Brown knew because of the tattoo. Brown knew about all of this because of the tattoo he took her to get covered up. Yet Jane testified that no one knew. Not even her parents knew about that tattoo. Jane said that Brown didn't speak on the way to get it covered up. Jane went into that. 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry. Jane said Brown didn't speak on the way to get it covered up. Jane went into the room alone and she discussed the tattoo that she wanted to cover it up with alone in a private room without Brown. Her and Brown didn't even speak while leaving. Gym bags. The government says that Brown knew about everything because he carried R. Kelly's bags. Jane and Tom testified that this was a part of Brown's job. Driving people around and carrying their bags in and out was a part of his job. Others also carried their bags. Tom testified to carrying Rob's bags. Jane never spoke to Brown about anything that was in those bags. Jane never testified to even seeing him go in the bags. VHS tapes. Lisa Van Allen at Homeland Security. Lisa Van Allen testified to Homeland Security that just by looking at those tapes, you wouldn't know what was on there. There were no labels or anything like that. Milton, no one ever testified that when Milton carried the bags, that he even opened the bags. So even if he did open the bags, he wouldn't know what he was looking at or what was on the tape just by looking at those tapes. In 2001 to 2000 is when the trouble started brewing, says the government, and they sprinkled Brown in there. You can't rely on the government's interpretation of the facts because it's just that it's not true. The Oak Park hotel room meeting, nobody said that Brown was there. Milton had nothing to do with that meeting, yet the government said that that's when the trouble started brewing for the trio. Travel records. IRS agents testified to the trips to Cancun and the Bahamas. During this time, the judge yawned really loud into the mic, you guys. In 2002, Susan said that she wanted to go on a getaway. Receipts of Jane and her parents spending money provided to you by the IRS agent. Yet, they couldn't find any hotel records, any credit card transactions, or anything from Milton Brown on that trip. Jane nor her parents ever testified to even seeing Brown in the Bahamas or in Cancun. They knew if they did ask that they would say, no, he wasn't there. Milton provided his passport, which is in evidence. Unfortunately, the passport doesn't go back to 2002. It expired. The government doesn't have any hotel or anywhere that June would have provided his ID to show that he was there. And even if he did travel there, it would have been the week before Jane and her parents. And then you still have them saying that they never seen him there. Then you still have them never saying that they seen him there. $200,000 check. The government says that because June cashed this check, he's guilty, when the evidence only shows that he was just doing his job. Tom also testified that he cashed checks sometimes and picked up large amounts of cash, so this was nothing unusual. $100,000 check, December the 22nd, 2012, that's in evidence. That check was made out to Milton. Yeah. But the memo says that he cashed that check for R. Kelly while he was in Africa, Nigeria. He would have cashed and delivered money to whomever he was directed to give it to, because that was part of his job. R. Kelly operates for large amounts of cash. He's wealthy. Derrel McDavid said he had Brown go get the $200,000 because he didn't want to go to the bank and get it. But that was Brown doing his job. Lisa, Chuck, and Keith. She asked, have you heard enough of them yet? Kansas examinations. Nobody said that Brown had anything to do with any of this. Chicago examinations. They were ordered by Jensen. Larry Belmonte said whether he remembered and he didn't remember, he would tell you what he remembered and what he didn't remember, and that's what you call a truthful testimony. He said there was no video was exchanged or was watched in his office. No money was exchanged. That contradicts everything that they said. In summary, but not quite over, the government wanted to present misleading events about all three of these defendants. Milton helped launch Kelly's career. There's no evidence of that. You know that's not true. The government tried to invent a fictional bond that didn't exist between these three men. Brown must have known about the tapes because he drove Jane to the tattoo place. That doesn't prove anything. The government proved nothing beyond a reasonable doubt. Just because you're in the presence of R. Kelly is not enough to prove anything or no evidence that he did anything wrong. Government is counting on you to rely on their interpretation of evidence, but you can't trust them nor their interpretation of facts. Reasons: because the government provided evidence of 2 lawsuits they knew about that involved Freeman trying to extort Rob for money and receiving settlements. In 2002, Freeman sued R. Kelly for non-payment. What did you do to get the balance? The government asked. Who did you sue? Freeman. Freeman said R. Kelly, Derrel McDavid, and Brown. But the lawsuit shows he did not sue Brown. The government knew that, and they didn't even try to correct their witness on the stand. They allowed him to sit on that stand and continue to lie. Brown was not a part of any lawsuit. The government asked if you received more money from Kelly, Derrel McDavid, or Brown. They knew that they was misleading the jury and giving false information when they asked that, because Brown had never been sued for any money. The government wouldn't even correct their mistakes. This is why you cannot rely on the government's facts for this case. They are willing to perpetuate the facts when they know that it's a lie. Then they began to show the lawsuit documents that shows Milton Brown's name is not on those lawsuits. Lastly, the charge, the single act. 13 charges, 3 defendants. The government carries the burden of proof for this case, to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Charged with doing his job and nothing more is his actual charge. He didn't they did not prove beyond any reasonable doubt. The government showed you what an assistant does on a consistent basis for their employer. I'm confident that you will find Milton Brown not guilty. So at the end of that, Jennifer again asked for a mistrial. She said, now the world will know Mr. Kelly is a sexual predator. If you want to assume that by the closing argument that Brown's attorney just gave. She said that the environment was already groomed, and she says and she says that she can't defend him against that because now he's going to be presumed guilty. The judge says that he still feels that a mistrial is not warranted, and he denies that. The government has 57 minutes left to rebuttal, and then Bajin has 105 minutes. They will give the jury the instructions, and then they'll be dismissed for deliberations. And that is all.
Dottie.
Okay, let me mute.
You said the judge wanted to get out of there by 11 o'clock tomorrow?
I was just being nosy. I heard him say something about you can let such and such know that we won't be done by 11. But I guess such and such wanted them done by 11.
Okay. So, if I was Jennifer, I just do what I gotta do. And if I'm not finished by an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes or whatever that comes out to, then I just put it in for an appeal. Like I couldn't even finish my closing argument.
What I would do?
I couldn't even finish my closing argument.
What I would do is whatever charges that Derrel McDavid had already spoke on, that him and R. Kelly is being charged together on, I would spend less, except for the obstruction one. I probably would spend less on those charges and talk more about the charges that Rob is facing by himself.
That's a good way of doing it.
Thank you guys for the nice compliments. I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, I probably will focus more on the charges of Rob. I probably will focus a lot on the charges relating to Jane. Let me see what other ones would I focus on.
Tracy, Nia.
Not Nia, because there was no sexual intercourse with Nia.
Right.
I really don't think Bajin needs to spend a lot of time on Lisa Van Allen and Chuck, because I think Derrel McDavid's attorneys hit that out the park. Like, they killed that. We already know. Even if I was on the opposite side listening to everything, I wouldn't believe Lisa Van Allen and Chuck, because their own witnesses testified and said that Lisa Van Allen was lying. And the fact that she's been impeached before, and just her simply lying about her age. Like, that just don't sit right with me. When you turn 18, that's the most exciting thing for a kid, because now they 18, they feel they got some type of independence now. You know what I'm saying? You know how kids, my daughter just turned 18 yesterday, and she been counting it down for the last 6 months. I promise you, she just turned 18 yesterday. And when I say counting it down, she been counting down to the minute. So there's no way I'm
18 and 21.
She was 18. Not only that, they proved that you couldn't be on that shoot unless you was 18. So I don't really think she needs to spend a lot of time on her and Chuck. But that's my opinion, guys. That's my.
Yeah, okay. I see your point.
And my daughter gonna get y'all because I'm here with y'all instead of at home celebrating her 18th birthday, by the way. No, I'm just joking. She tripped. Yeah. She'll be alright.
Yeah. And then what's her name?
So her biggest thing,
What's Pinky name went to?
Pinky Pauline, her biggest thing is gonna be, I'm telling you what her biggest thing is. Jane in the video. The video that was shown to the jury. She has to tackle that the hardest.
Oh yeah. And she gotta say that the government didn't even bring in a forensic.
We can't say what she gotta say. We gotta wait and see what she gonna say tomorrow. We can't be saying.
You're right.
We don't know, but we know those are the things that she would probably want to spend the most time on.
You're right. I will hope that she'll mention that the government didn't bring any forensics to verify, authenticate these tapes. These tapes could have been deep fake. Nowadays, you could put your face, somebody's face, on anybody's body, and
You know
have
the
that
government
person
still
say
gotta go
whatever
up.
they want to say.
No, right?
Huh?
I said, you know the government got to rebuttal this, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm a hush.
has anybody looked up when it comes to the charges? I said I was gonna do this a long time ago. Look up what each charge carries. I think the only one I did was the obstruction of justice charge, which was like we said 20 years.
Yeah, that's what you said. 20 years.
And what the other charge is like? Would it be if he was to be found guilty of anything? Are we looking at like time served? Are we looking at like probation? I know they touched on the statute of limitations for some of this stuff, so I'm thinking what would be the what's like the sentence? Is anybody? Maybe since I got on here early and I'm getting off early, I can look that up, and then tomorrow. Oh, let me make a note.
But I see grounds for an appeal with everything. I do see grounds for an appeal already.
So
but if it's a hung jury, then I doubt.
I don't want to do no appeal because he sits in jail during these appeals. And them appeals that don't happen overnight. That could take time. Them appeals can take 3 to 5 years. So by the time he get through appealing, he been did the time. So we want him to be found not guilty.
Right.
So we're not gonna entertain appeal. And then, I mean, you said, explain to me why do you see the grounds for an appeal rather than just an acquittal?
There's a rush for time. The motion wasn't granted for severance to separate them. In one aspect, they clearing their client's name was sort of kind of throwing them on the bus, actually, but And then like nothing was verified with the tapes. Um, the government really haven't proven their case.
And that's why it should be a not guilty. Because they
That's
haven't
why.
proven the case.
But
What are you going to appeal?
but in New York, um, the government didn't prove their case there either.
The New York is something totally different. We got to stop comparing them two cases because everything about that was totally different. Wholly different. I mean, he got a chance here because it's fair. It's different in New York. Somebody said, why didn't he have any more witnesses? Because the government didn't prove the beyond a reasonable doubt, the burden of proof. They didn't meet their burden of proof. If you ask me, why bring in more people? And then the the witnesses that they did have just kept repeating the same testimony over and over again. So there wasn't nothing for them to really.
What type of witnesses would they want?
Yeah, the government witnesses, some of them kind of worked for the defense once they got cross-examined.
I'm talking about what type of witnesses would they want for Rob?
Say that again. I'm a mute.
What type of witnesses did they want for Rob that wasn't brought up?
I think Derrel McDavid did a good job as being a somewhat of a character witness for him to an extent. I didn't see, and not one time did they ever say that he was guilty. So did any of the other well, yeah, in the beginning, Brown's attorney, her opening statement, she kind of did, but when it comes to Derrel McDavid, they never not once said that Rob was guilty of anything. I think they kind of certain statements they made, if he would have known then what he know now, kind of left the door open for the jury to assume. So are you saying that he's guilty now? But
Right.
technically, by law, you can't base his guilt or innocence off an assumption. They would have technically had to say it in that courtroom. Oh, we feel that he's guilty now, but he wasn't guilty then, in order to consider that. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, that's still Derrel McDavid's attorney. He's still a defendant on that case.
Right.
So if they didn't say it, go ahead and I'm finna mute so you can say something, Lolo, because I think somebody's asking you a question.
Hold on. Let's see. Let me go to the questions.
And I was just told that that juror was a white Liberian in her 30s, replaced by a white male in his 60s. Hope that helps.
Yes, Miss Fat, I have an iPhone.
You know what? I wonder if that's why that's an echo, because you're on an iPhone, I'm on an Android. I wonder if that's the reason for the echo. Tanya, did she leave? Yeah, Tanya got off. I wonder if that's the reason. I think it's going to be a mistrial, but they're struggling. There's not going to be a mistrial. The judge denied it probably a total of 5 times already. They're going struggling. Do you mean a hung jury? Because not a mistrial, maybe a hung jury.
Yeah. Now, if this thing go to a hung jury, I seriously doubt the government will come back and bring these charges up again with these same people in on the stand And that's gonna even make them get caught up in a lie another time. Because they ain't gonna be able to keep the same story.
Yeah, they're gonna have to give them immunity once again because they're gonna be saying something else. Oh, okay, hold on. They're gonna be saying something else if it's another trial. So yeah, I don't even think they'll try it again either, honestly.
Going back to
Hold on. Miss Fast say dismiss without prejudice or dismiss with prejudice because if you dismiss with prejudice, isn't it they can't try them again? Or is it dismiss without prejudice? I don't know.
And the jury can decide that.
No, Miss Fast is saying I think the judge has to. Let me look it up.
no, back to the other question. My phone does the same thing, Miss Fat, and I do have an iPhone. We determined before we went live that Daddy Lolo and I have an echo, but not when Dottie has her mute button pushed. So we don't know what the deal is. But anyway, what I was saying was that if any other any other witnesses that they could have called, I think it may have should have been an expert witness, but it's up to the government to prove their burden, to prove his guilt. So, I mean, like you were saying, Dottie and Lolo, that, what other witnesses could they have brought other than an expert witness? Because their witnesses were so weak. So that's just my opinion.
Right. And with
So say
video
you
one, an expert witness had already testified about video one. And they ruled
Miss
it.
Fashion funny, I'm sorry.
And they
But yeah,
ruled
that's
it as
exactly what I
fake.
was.
The expert witness before ruled video one as a fake.
Yep, that's exactly what Derrel McDavid's closing closing remarks included. That video one was a fake, and that expert witness testified in 2008 that it was a fake, and they watched the video of Rob's back and that mole on his back appear, disappear, reappear, and move on the screen as they watched the tape.
So I say, um, not guilty.
I say not guilty too.
I agree. Not guilty for all the defendants. Nothing was proven.
I feel so bad for Milton Brown though. For Milton Brown. He just sat there the whole time, just so quiet. I don't even think he sat directly, looked straight ahead the entire 4 weeks. The man just for
He
me,
didn't talk to Rob or
he did none of that. Nothing. He sat in his chair and he looked straight ahead. I don't even know if he blinked.
yeah, because you were saying that McDavid and Kelly and the lawyers all joked and laughed, but Milton Brown sit over there in the corner and didn't say nothing, huh?
Right.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you, K baby. I'm up here now.
Yep, he didn't say anything. Which furthermore, probably the jury probably looked at that today and said, oh, his attorney is right. They trying to make them like they the trio. They got this old tight bond. He didn't even speak to them. Not that we seen in there. So during the breaks and lunches, you guys, they will remove the jury. So when the jury was during the breaks, we got to stay in the courtroom. We didn't have to leave out. So everybody stayed in there, all the defendants or whatever, unless they wanted to go out. And while they were in there, that's when Milton will go hang out at Rob's table and his attorneys, and they all just sit there and just conversate together. But that never happened with Milton Brown at all. They said, what do the judge be doing at this time? Cracking jokes, laughing. He was yawning loud. Did you hear him, Lolo, yawning loud during Brown's closing argument?
Oh yeah, yeah. Even I was yawning.
But I liked hers because the way she hit on each point. She tackled every single thing the government used and said that had some affiliation to Brown. And then she tackled each reason why he was not guilty and how it didn't relate and how none of their witnesses testified to Brown ever being in these locations. Um, they witnesses actually they didn't even put him on the scene. At one point, even do you remember when Lisa Van Allen testified and she said she went to the car and she was crying and he asked her what's wrong? She even said Brown didn't do anything. No, he was just in the car. He didn't do nothing. She even said that.
Right.
He couldn't even get her to lie on him.
Yeah, he should. Why is he even here?
So they say, Jane slept with Kelly, Andrea, Pauline, Lisa, Brittany, Tracy, all while being 14. But then she lost her virginity to Kelly allegedly, especially when the girl on the tape was well experienced. And on their on the notes that they showed on the screen, they said Jane lost her virginity between 15 and 16. So
Another
and
thing.
they say at 14 is when he was using interstate commerce, the telephone or whatever, to engage in like phone sex with her. And he would masturbate on the phone. So that started 13, 14. And the actual penetration didn't happen until 15 or 16. But they said 15 at one time. Now it's a 15 or 16.
She said video one is her, but video one was used in the 2008 trial when supposedly, allegedly, the fake tape showed the two people having sexual intercourse, and she said she was 14.
And she also, someone asked, how did she know that that was her on the tape? She said she identified the tape based upon her signature or some kind of foolishness she said.
Yeah, they didn't show her no video. They show her images.
So wait, so okay. So you said on tape one that there was actual vaginal penetration?
Yeah, in the 2008 trial.
And she said that she was 14.
Yeah, she said she was 14 on video one,
Well,
2, and 3.
if that was the case, then if I was Jennifer, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just saying, those would have been the bullet points I would have used to ask for a mistrial.
Facts.
Because that don't even make sense. So I would have asked for a mistrial right there.
Now, how can she say she was on video one when it's been proven to be faked?
Wait.
Oh,
So
man.
let me ask this. Did she actually, okay, she said it was her on that tape, but did she actually identify that being Rob on the tape?
Nope.
Did they ever ask her, is that Rob on that tape? Or did they just ask her, is that
They asked her
you
that.
on that tape?
Did they? They asked her.
I
She
don't
said yes.
remember that.
I don't remember either, but maybe so.
Yeah, when they was questioning her, the prosecution was doing direct examine, their direct examination of her, They was questioning her. They said, "Who was the two people in the tape?" And she said it was her and Rob. And
But she
all
was
all the
real.
But
tape.
was that tape one, or was it the tape where they keep talking about video 2 and 3?
She said it for all of them.
So she was real smart and sarcastic about it when the guy was asking her, excuse me, about losing her virginity. She was like, "I know I was 15. So were you 14 when you were saying this 14-year-old P, or were you 15? I mean, which, I mean, I don't know. I'm just confused. This whole mess is
She
confusing.
don't know. She said this 14-year-old P because she didn't see no videos. She seen pictures.
And then today on the screen they said that she was probably 15 or 16.
So so they contradicting their own witness.
Yep.
Come on,
Those
man.
if they ever get doctor records to know if she sexually act, there was no doctor statements or notes submitted into evidence, so they didn't talk about anything like that.
And I'm still trying to come to grips with this. 17 is legal in the state of Illinois.
Mute your phone, Daddy.
Oh,
I'm still trying to come to the grips that 17 is legal in the state of Illinois, but 18 is the federal age. But if you meet someone that's 17 in the state of Illinois and you call them on the phone, even though it's legal in your state, you can get federally charged. It's just, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't understand. Someone has to explain this whole difference to me.
it won't be me because I don't understand either. I never knew that. So being at this trial is like is an eye opener because you would have never known that. They like they say, it's not about whether she was 17 because under their law, anything under the age of 18 is a federal crime.
So if it's a federal crime, then why they don't go after everybody else, like other celebrities?
The best thing to do is just make sure, I guess, everybody's 18 and up.
Yeah, I know that.
But I'm just saying, for in this trial today, when Dottie just mentioned that, that was the first time that I heard them ever say anything about the federal law is 18. I don't remember. It may be so, but I think this is the first time I heard them say anything about 17 is the state of Illinois' consent age, but for the feds is 18. I didn't think I heard that before.
So then, I don't. So why are states having their own age of consent then? When
And Miss Fat, that you say that, you say Tiger was with Kylie Jenner when she was 16, and what's crazy is because in New York, Rob was convicted on that charge with Jane Doe #5 because of him being with her allegedly in California and being 17. Remember that was when he was at a concert and she described going to that hotel and she remembered it because the hotel room was so fancy, it had a fireplace and etc. That was in New York, so that's where he got that charge from her being um 17 in California.
and what about Seinfeld?
What about all these women that Charlie Sheen is infected with HIV
Right.
that he's settling with? He has That whole paper trail that they're saying is the paper trail that was used to cover up all Rob's illegal activities. This man has a paper trail of all these settlements of women that he's exposed to HIV. What about him?
And I think that every state should just bump up their age of consent to 18 then. Because it makes no sense to have a age of consent for your own state and you fooling with somebody in your own state, but it becomes a federal crime if you call them to link up if they this age of consent.
Spitfire said, why have a state law then?
That's right.
And somebody else I said, I don't know who made the comment, said that this is gonna mess a lot of people up because if they don't know the federal laws and only the state laws, it will.
It sounds like entrapment, because why not just have it across the board the same? Because your state law doesn't trump fed law.
Right.
Just make sure, like Ms. Fast said, your sneaking links are 18. Male or female. Yeah, because that's almost entrapment for real, for real.
So do you guys think that the jury is thinking of this the same way we thinking about it? Like, dang, I never knew that federally they had to be 18 and over. I thought the state law was the only law that we had to be worried about. So do you think that they'll look at that, like I'm saying, the same way we looking at it and say, how can we convict him for not knowing the federal law? I mean, you know, that could have been anyone in that situation. Do you think they'll take that into consideration? To say, like, we do not believe beyond a reasonable doubt that he thought he was breaking the law. But
right.
then again,
But then they say ignorance of the law is not a defense.
No.
that's what I was about to say too. But then they can't say that.
Yeah, like Miss Darcy says, the jury.
But
the
you're
jury would
abiding
be
by
given
the
the federal law
That's one thing.
definition, huh?
But you are. It's not like you ignorant of the law, but you're abiding by the law in one sense. But not abiding by it. Oh, it's scary. That goes back to saying that if the feds want to get you with anything, they can literally get you with anything.
Yeah, because the feds have unlimited resources. They are the United. On that paperwork, it says the United States of America, which means every ounce or every resource that they can use to convict you, they will. That's why their conviction rate is so high. They have every resource. They can do whatever they want to, basically, and win.
Right. And they say everybody commits like 3 felonies a day without even knowing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what
That's
they
what
say.
I've heard.
Wow.
Is Geronda in the state case?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Her and Jane.
Number 5.
No, not number 5. Number 1
Jane
in
who?
this,
Oh, Jane 1. Yeah,
in
okay.
this case.
Yeah, they're both in the state case.
Because the state case got videos that they say, right?
Right.
You know, I was surprised.
So why Tracy ain't in the state case? But she was in the federal case.
But wait. The state case has videos of what?
The same videos the feds got. The feds got them from the state.
Yep. I was surprised they didn't mention Avenatti's name in the closing argument.
She probably will tomorrow. But why Tracy ain't in the state case then? If she called the hotline and they didn't even take her up for it. Her story is that she was 16.
But didn't they prove that she was 17? So if they charged her state, technically she wouldn't have a case because by state law she's legal.
So was
So
Lenita Carter.
they had to add her to the federal because by federal law she's still under 18.
But Lenita Carter was 24. And they charged him with the state for her.
Yeah, but that wasn't a minor. Like that the charge with Lenita Carter was like a sexual assault or that was a difference. That was an assault case, and she went to the police on that one. That one is different.
Exactly, baby girl. So this, it just seems like to me this is all double, triple jeopardy, like she's saying. So they're gonna charge him in a state case, a fed case, and the 2008 trial for the same shit.
Yeah.
Make out that's crazy.
This just a remix of it.
He king of remix, huh? They remixing the shit out of this stuff.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I don't know. Somebody said Diane said, why didn't they have a forensic expert? Well, neither side called a forensic expert about the tapes. The government, the defense showed the expert witness statements and testimony from 2008 regarding the tapes and said that they were fake. So they didn't bring in anyone, but they showed what experts had already testified to about the tapes.
If he get out of when he get out of this, he don't need. I was gonna say when he get out of this, if he decide he ever want to be in a relationship, she need to have gray hairs everywhere. She need to be older than him.
Well, he got Joy.
Well, whatever. Yeah, okay, but yeah, he need to make sure if that don't work out, he give him a old woman.
And it's not like he don't like older women. Because he was with Kitty Jones, uh, Andrea, according to Asante, K. Michelle. So they just can't say that he only like younger women. He said himself he type of man that like all women.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it in his song Sweet Tooth, that he don't discriminate against race, white, black,
I
Asian.
would have liked if they would have since the government decided they wanted to pull up his footage of when he was singing like I Believe I Could Fly at the Grammys and stuff. I would have liked to see Jennifer pull up the footage of his concerts where they used to hold the signs up that said you got to be 18 years or older.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see that too. And that's from the 90s.
Yep.
When he used to do that.
Yeah. That's from his Showtime at the Apollo concert too.
Yeah, we need to have his back just like they did Elvis, because and we got his back. Seriously, I wish more of us did. More people that look like him did.
And I like that too. Derrel McDavid's attorneys touched on how much his fans love him and support him. And if we thought that he was even guilty of any of that, will we still support him and stuff? And he was like, I think not. This man has tons of fans that support him from all over the world, and they can see through the BS. So they stressed that in when they was doing their closing argument, they talked on that, and they also said it during a cross examination with one of the witnesses. I'm not sure which one. Oh no, you know what? It was Derrel McDavid that said it during his testimony.
Spitfire said, "Do you think if he get found not guilty, will that still be a state case?" I think so, because there'll be another crack at him. I think if he get found guilty, I think the state case will drop. But if he get found not guilty, I think the state case will continue on. That's the way I think.
I think not. I don't think if he's found not guilty, I don't think there's going to be a state case because okay, one, he still got to fight New York, and that's still going to take some time. But two, the state case is kind of similar to the same evidence. Some of the evidence that they have is what the federal government used. And if this jury finds him not guilty on that evidence, then the state, 9 times out of 10, well, they probably not gonna throw it out. They probably gonna drop some stuff because Lanita Carter isn't in the federal, and they probably want to give her her shot, her opportunity for justice.
And Heather Williams.
And what Heather Williams settled, got a settlement already, but I feel like the other stuff will be dropped because this jury has already acquitted him based on that same evidence. So why try him again in the state court on the same evidence that he was acquitted? I know it sounds like because this is 2008, but the charge is a little bit different. So if you're using the same tapes and stuff, I just think that part of it to get thrown out. And then I also think the state, they're gonna be more on chain of custody, the chain of custody with that tape too. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of how long everything takes. I know that Minnesota stuff is probably just gonna get throughout.
He ain't even seen a judge yet in Minnesota to hear the charges. That in Minnesota is just there, just to be there.
Yeah, I agree. Someone says the government plan make a mistake, go to court again and just rewrite the charge. Yeah, that's what they did. They rewrote that charge. They're saying that anything he did from July 11, 2014 till July 11, 2019, anything in there is where the obstruction of justice came from.
And that's paying her rent?
Yeah, it's all those payments. I wrote them down. Hold on. Yeah, it was rent payments. And they was literally once a month. Like when you look at these payments, it's like how could they
beginning
ever
of the month.
believe that was a settlement? Because it's $1,100. Who pays a settlement of $1,100 once a month? You can literally look at that and tell that was those were rent payments.
And the fact is that she said out of her own mouth that wasn't no settlement. And the government saying that, oh yes, it is. It was a settlement. But she said out of her own mouth it wasn't. And they still gonna say that that it was a settlement. So is she lying to them? If she's lying to them, then we got a problem.
And that's exactly what Brinkley was saying. They witnesses said one thing, but they want you to believe what they're saying, and it just makes no sense.
And the fact is, she didn't even want to come about with these charges. She wasn't even cooperating on her own to begin with. Not because he didn't not because he made her not cooperate, but this time around she said she didn't even cooperate on her own because she just didn't want to be bothered with it on her own. And then with the federal came, she said that well actually when the federal came, she took it upon herself to come about with these charges because he wasn't even responding to her. And he couldn't respond to her because he had a bond uh, for his bond for Cook County. He couldn't even have any communications with any of the accusers. And she was one of the accusers, so he couldn't respond to her.
Yeah, and then she could have been possibly trying to set him up too,
Right,
to say something.
right. So even then, that goes to show he's abiding by the law, his bond and everything. And he's trying to do right by the law. This is this is ridiculous. But I think that
Since you're down there in Chicago, Lolo, go and break him out.
break them out. No, I can't say I'm gonna break them out. I have a charge on me tomorrow. Go down there, arrest me on site.
Okay, government, we just playing. We just joking. Yeah, we know Lolo can't go get him out of there.
But I think that the government probably had something on her to make her say this stuff. Probably something like I don't know. They probably had something on her. But did you catch the part when Brentley was doing his closing argument, Dottie, that he said about Freeman, he came forward because he was already being investigated for extortion?
Wait, say that one more time.
Did you catch the part about when Brentley was doing his closing argument? He spoke on how Freeman, why did he come forward with these tapes or whatever? Is because he was already being investigated for extortion.
No, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
He was already been.
So the feds must was investigating him already for extortion on something else.
Oh wow.
So they said, I got you. You either help us out or this.
I'm still tripping off of Brinkley. Brinkley said he never had no tapes to begin with. He got a tape from off the internet, the same place he said he seen it at on the internet. I'm still tripping on that.
I think I got an idea of where these two and
Let me
three
put
tapes
some.
came from. I think I got an idea about where these video 2 and 3 came from. But I'm gonna have to text you that in private. I can't say it out loud.
Yeah, I got like wait, 2, maybe 3 videos left, and then y'all won't see me no more. I'll be out y'all here. So we'll talk about that on the last video that I make. For last live that I do. We'll talk.
What I just said?
Yeah, because the trial will be over with.
Right.
So we'll save all of that for the end. think I
Yeah,
got
okay.
like 3
So
total left.
that'll be tomorrow.
No, it won't be tomorrow because I gotta go back live and we gotta wait till after the verdict. So I'm gonna do tomorrow and
Then the
then
verdict.
I'll go live with the verdict. So I got 2 more lives. That's it. Know how they say? Hey, fuck rap, you can have it back. I'm gonna get off of YouTube.
And you could actually see that video that Brentley was talking about when Rob had turned himself in at the at 26 in California. How they came attacking him. You can actually see that. I think it's on YouTube.
Oh, you have to send me that. There's somebody saying, "No, you still got another state case." I don't think that state case gonna happen. You mean the appeal? I don't know how I report on that.
When you think the verdict will come back? How many days?
Okay. It, so what I say, they'll be getting the instructions tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I don't think it's gonna go past Thursday. Yeah. I don't think it's gonna go past Thursday, you guys.
I would say I don't think it's gonna go past Friday.
Yeah, I predict by the end of the week. Maybe
But
Thursday.
I think the earliest Thursday, the latest Friday. I don't
I
think they're
want
gonna come back the next day like New York did.
no. I want to say Thursday late afternoon. I'm sticking to that Thursday late afternoon.
And I want to say Friday late afternoon.
So
Because they got a lot to review. It's gonna take a lot of time to, especially like if half of them saying guilty, half of them saying not guilty, they gonna hang it out to see if they can try to convince the others on something before they just say, okay, it's hung.
does everyone just hang out at the court until, or what? Or do you get like because they give notice when it's in, but I don't know how much notice.
Yeah, you leave. Once the jury is dismissed, we gotta leave. And then they call and let us know when it's verdict day.
But in New York, we was hanging out at the court.
I got a call. I went back up there. Matter of fact, I don't even remember how it happened, so let me stop.
I
But I'm
remember
pretty
just sitting in the
sure.
courtroom. I was in the family courtroom in New York. And I remember just sitting there,
I'm
just
saying, but how
waiting.
did you get there? Because that wasn't court. So how did you get there? Because they wasn't letting you up, so they had to call and say that they had a verdict in, and that's why we all went back up there. And we went in the courtroom to hear the verdict.
No, I'm saying that Friday, the jurors got dismissed. We all left. That Monday morning, I remember going back to the court and just sitting around, just waiting inside the courtroom.
So you was like, they don't come back today. Forget this. You just knew, huh?
No, I didn't. I was just there just in case.
You just said, I'm just gonna go.
I was
So
expecting.
you have your seat, huh?
Yeah, I was expecting them just to come back a little later than that following day, following court date, actually. But I was there just in case if they did.
What? So okay, Corey, you say hung jury, hung jury, hung jury. What exactly do you think the jury is gonna be hung up on?
You talking to me?
No, Corey. He says it's gonna in the chat. He said it's gonna be a hung jury. I just want to know what part do you think the jury is gonna be hung up on, and for who? Because they can still come back and say Brown not guilty, Derrel McDavid not guilty, Rob not guilty on this, guilty on that. You know, they can still do that. So which parts and for who? Hey, everyone that's that's coming in and saying, hey, bad girl said acquittal, acquittal, acquittal. Somebody said, oh, Cortez, I'm sure she will. Like ASAP.
I know one charge he ain't gonna be found guilty of. It's the charge with count 13. How you find somebody guilty of something and the person ain't even show up to testify that he did it themselves?
I wonder if that's gonna confuse the jury. Is they gonna be like, hold on, did we see her? What was her testimony? What was that about?
But there's no take 4 either. How you gonna be found guilty on take 4?
Right, that one too. That one too. Unless they believe in that whole conspiracy thing. And if they believe in that whole conspiracy thing, then they trust in Lisa and Freeman about it. And Keith. But Keith is more believable than Lisa and Freeman.
But then you have to, like they said, it's important to remember you have police officers, you have private investigators slash attorneys, you have other attorneys. That's all. You gotta believe that every last one of them people, like they didn't hire no off the street people. They hired professional bodyguards was undercover police officers. You would have to believe that all these people seen some child pornography or witnessed some type of illegal activities and they all just overlooked it. And no one was concerned with their careers or like Margolis and them, their legacies and stuff. No one was concerned about that, all to keep R. Kelly out of jail. I doubt that.
Yeah, I doubt it
That's
too.
just like believing the naysayers who say people allowed him to do this for 30 years and didn't say anything. Like you have to believe that foolishness too.
Yeah, when they say, oh, the people around him, but these people didn't need R. Kelly money. They were already established. They had high paid clients. Um, it's only so much money that in my opinion, you can make. But they didn't need R. Kelly's money, so they didn't need to sit here and say, "Oh, this is not this and this is not that." They didn't need to cover up anything for him. And then not only that, when you listen to Derrel McDavid's testimony and stuff, their relationships wasn't even with Rob. They met him, and they probably didn't see him again. They had Derrel McDavid sign a paper to act on Rob's behalf so that they never even needed to speak to Rob about certain things. So their relationship was with Derrel McDavid. So what interest would they have with covering up all of this stuff for Rob? That wasn't their friend. They didn't even technically know him. They just knew they worked for him and he was behind everything. But other than that, what was the personal interest that they would risk everything that they worked for him?
They would not.
And
All
even
right.
with the video
Huh?
2 and
Say that
3,
again.
even with the video 2 and 3, then the government said they said that the tapes were altered.
So I'm inclined to believe that if they said that they put together a whole fake tape, fake video one is fake, I'm inclined to believe that any tape that crossed Lisa Van Allen's hands was fake. Because if you can make one, you can make 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right. And out of all these copies that was made, nobody that got a copy leaked the tape.
And then not only that, the only people that can get on the stand and testify to the tapes of seeing the tape is the tapes that they seen with him and his wife and Lisa Van Allen. So, and the fact that she couldn't, not guilty.
Not guilty. Again, it couldn't have been child porn. And so you think Kamora Lee Simmons would put herself in that type of situation to purchase child porn?
I think at the end of the day, whether you for R. Kelly or you not for R. Kelly, there's just too many questions raised with almost every single part of this case. It's too much stuff that has to have you scratching your head, and that's what they meant by they did not meet that burden of proof. So I just feel like it's gonna be a not guilty.
And everybody got immunity. Everybody got immunity. From Jane to her mama to Lisa to Keith and Freeman and what's her name? I keep forgetting her cinnamon name, but Pinky and Tracy and.
Before we leave out of here, everyone put some positivity in the air. Let's hashtag not guilty, free R. Kelly, whatever we can. So when the naysayers see this, we all need to continue to pray for him and his legal team. Pray for everyone, McDavid even, and Milton Brown. Just lift him up in prayer for tomorrow, for Jennifer, and give her the right words to say. Pray for the jury that they see the truth behind all of this, that they see what we see, basically.
Okay, you guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. So I'll be on even. So I don't know if you guys. Well, Lolo, you should be available tomorrow because we'll be there together. Tanya, would you be available a little bit earlier tomorrow? Because I know we're gonna get out earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the earlier the better, so we can all go to sleep at a decent hour.
Right. Hey, Dottie.
Yes.
Never mind. I'll tell you tomorrow.
Or text me. Everybody that said thank you, you are so welcome. Thank y'all for joining us and participating in this discussion. It's that put it on not guilty.
Okay. Yeah. Love you all.
All right,
Good night.
Good night, everybody. See you guys tomorrow. Bye, Lolo.
Yeah,
Thank
Kelly.
you. Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.